OTCQB company trading under the ticker BIXT. The company is a clinical stage biotech with 3 revolutionary platform technologies that were quickly developed using the power of AI. They have a broad spectrum oral antiviral drug that recently completed clinical trials and achieved 100% viral reduction in 7 days, a feat only accomplished by one other drug in the past decade. Their drug is a galectin inhibitor that not only neutralizes COVID-19, but also neutralizes influenza and RSV and prevents it from entering cells. They are currently looking to find a collaboration partner for their broad spectrum antiviral for an FDA trial. They have a second platform drug, an oxygenation molecule being developed to treat stroke, and its development is supported by an FDA-approved device that detects local tissue oxygenation. Due to the molecule's small size, it has the ability to carry oxygen into areas of poor circulation. The company has a third platform technology that's capable of treating cancer metastasis. We have a corporate update today from the Chief Communications Officer, Mike Sheikh. Welcome back to the conference, Mike. Always nice to see you and hear your update.
Well, thank you, and thank you for that great introduction. So my name's Mike, and I'll be doing the June 2025 update. Now, you look at the tagline, and it says, breaking the one virus, one antiviral paradigm. That's kind of what we're about right now, but I also want you to think bigger that we're also like the inflammation company. So I want you to think of as taking inflammation completely out of your lives forever. That's kind of what we're about. Now, we had some news hit today, and it was about a Camel Hemoglobin supplier. Now, there's a whole bunch of benefits to using camel over cow, and you probably, or the investing public probably wasn't even thinking about this. So let's just kind of put this into perspective. Mad cow disease, no risk of it. Longer half-life, higher hemoglobin concentrations, red blood cells. The bottom line of this is camels represent a more robust feedstock for our drug. That's the bottom line. But now, what's the impact? Like, how does this really affect investors? So that's what I really want to answer. So we have a joint venture with Heme Foundation, the Heme Foundation, and it's kind of like a vendor relationship. And this relationship and this supplier is actually going to help us, or we think it's going to help increase the donations to the Heme Foundation because it gives visibility. It also shows that we have a scalable production model in track. Because look, if the Heme Foundation wants to solve the world's blood shortage, it's going to take a lot of product. And then finally, I want you to think about the impact that we can have on all these other disease indications where like BIXT, our molecule, can help in stroke, Alzheimer's, traumatic brain injury, pulmonary embolism, dementia, Parkinson's, whole host of diseases there. So anyhow, that covers, that's the update on the latest press release. Now, there's something else that was in the news, and it relates to our competitor. And I talked about our competitor back in November of last year. It's Galectin Therapeutics. And I talked about this rising tide of galectin science. Well, that tide rose and got smushed on by a massive short attack led by the usual suspects. You can see it there. And then it had a poorly messaged MASH data readout. And we can see that because there's been basically piecemeal releases. Okay, but the bottom line is statistical significance. The 2 milligram dose was statistically significant in 2 clinical trials. So why am I advocating for this company that represents our competitor is because, number one, I think it's woefully undervalued. And number two is I believe this rising tide of awareness will float all ships higher in with this galectin science. And I stated that back in November, and I am stating it now again. And we're seeing an uptick. And you could see there to the right of the slide, you see Galectin Therapeutics with a buy at HC Wainwright. So the new analyst put his price target at 6, and that really got investors kind of excited what's going on. But the real reason that they're excited, besides the fact that they have statistically significant data, is that they have a 5 million total available market, and their peak sales is 18 billion. They got 150 or 150, 180. It's actually 100. I think it's $180 million market cap right now. They have a pristine safety profile. And then in this last presentation, they said they had synergies with GLP-1 Ozempic. They made Ozempic better. I want you to think about that. And then the final thing that, investors should consider is, all this noise out there. They had a statistical plan. The statistical plan said 52.5%. That was their endpoint. I think they got 48 something. They barely missed their endpoint. Who sets that? It's the company in collaboration with the FDA, but they said it. The standard in efficacy is normally 30%. So if investors realize that, they realize, wait a second, this isn't like some hard line in the sand that the shorts are throwing out at you where you said, oh, they missed it. Did they really? And you got to really think about that. I mean, they did, but anyhow, think about the big picture and think about them talking to the FDA. So here's one of the key opinion leaders that was on the call. And look what he said. To my knowledge, this really is the first trial that was agreed upon with the FDA that an endoscopic endpoint will qualify a medicine potentially for an FDA approval. He's really excited about and thinks that this is getting approval. I'm not twisting the words. That's what it said here. But as bullish as this is, I want to kind of bring some light to things. There really wasn't that much guidance in these talks regarding the regulatory plan. And we don't know if they're meeting with the FDA. We got to assume that they are. But I'm just saying it wasn't overtly obvious. And they're still like in this data compilation mode. They're still waiting for some data. And I think that they're waiting for some data endpoint and then for efficacy. And then I think they'll finally press the button, submit to the FDA. And then maybe all these other things happen. So just be aware of that. Now, there's this valuation rift between the three publicly traded galectin antagonists. You have Galectin Therapeutics, you have Galecto, and then you have Bioxytran. So let's talk about Galectin. They had 150 million. I think there may be $180 million market cap. They have $7.5 million in cash. They're obviously the leader in market cap. The Galecto, $4.5 million market cap, 11.9 million in cash. What's going on there is a trading at a massive discount to cash. The investors have kind of spoken, we're not so sure about the technology. And then you have Bioxytran over here. We got a $10 million market cap. The charts looks like a screaming buy. But look over to the left. We have 3 platform technologies, not like Galectin, just one drug, right? And if you don't know, do some research. Who made that drug? You'll figure it out. Or who invented that drug? And then you have multiple disease indications. You have a pristine clinical trial data. All these other guys, Galecto, Galectin, there's been some issues. So we basically have best of breed technology. So here's what you have, or here's what investors need to put in their heads. Is Galectin Therapeutics widely overvalued, or is BIXT widely undervalued? I just made a compelling argument that GALT is extremely undervalued. $180 million market cap, 18 billion out there, peak sales. Does that sound rational? Okay. So anyhow, think about that. And now I also want to say, I want to show how the technology mixes and matches. Anything that Galecto, that Galectin, Galecto, True Binding, Bioxytran, anything that these galectin antagonist companies can do, the other guy can do. Like we can do, Bioxytran can do anything the others can do, and the others, if they choose to, can do anything they want to. That's not totally true. I think it's more, we have more flexibility than the other guys because the other guys use monoclonal antibodies or small molecules. But there's a huge valuation rift, and investors should definitely check that out. And what I'd like to say is that this is a classic opportunity for what's called a pair trade. Anyone that's owning Galectin Therapeutics stock would be crazy not to buy an insurance policy of Bioxytran at 10 or 11 cents, just in case all of a sudden we get some money and then we have the potentially superior technology where we could overtake the leader. So why wouldn't you want that insurance policy? Next, I want to give a licensing update. We have a Japanese licensing consultant. He's promising a bunch of meetings over the summer. We're really excited and we're ready. We have cancer, and I'll talk you about the ready on the next slide. Cancer, virology, dermatology, organ. We have all these slide decks ready to go. And then let's talk about the government funding. We believe that this could come via University of Georgia. So University of Georgia, if they get awarded the APHIS USDA grant, then we believe that they're gonna use our product in that clinical trial. This is a new highlight. Arizona State University. They're doing a journal article called Galectin-3 staining of tumor biopsies as a companion diagnostic for the treatment of immune checkpoint inhibitor resistance. That is a word mouthful, right? But it's about Galectin-3 staining tests. That's what it's basically about. Got a bunch of grad students. Now, what they're going to talk about is the massive healthcare savings, increased responders rate, and they're going to quantify the effect of doing this test on big pharmas, and they're going to be talking to politicians, scientists, big pharmas, galectin companies, all that. Now, this is the case for the investment. Why aren't we a unicorn? It's really a failure of investors to follow the galectin science, whether it's Galectin Therapeutics or it's Bioxytran. Follow the science. And you know, everyone's scared of dilution. Look, get over it. It hasn't been done yet. There's a flipper mentality. There's this too good to be true. There's this pandemic fatigue, thinking that COVID's actually over. It's not. And then investors seem to be over discounting what we could do with a bird flu solution and what it could do and how it could transform this company. Really discounting that a lot. And we are aligned with shareholders. This is our product pipeline. Notice that Prolactin M is the most advanced, but we got Prolactin I, that's out there, and then our oxygen carrier. So that pretty much concludes my presentation. And look, the promise of our technology is great. The promise of Galectin Therapeutics is great. The promise of Bioxytran is great. So please do your due diligence and invest wisely. There's an incredible opportunity here for a pair trade, but I think BIXT is really ridiculously undervalued. So look, we're going to find the right investor. We're going to bring in funding, and we're going to start nailing milestones. And we hope you're around for the ride.